Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or whatever time zone it is, whether you in the world, it is your Lord and Saviour. And on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day 2025, in the year of our Lord Talos, I got together with members of the Lord Benign Discord server and we played Vampire the Masquerade 20th Anniversary Edition, with a twist. Because Christmas for many is a wonderful time of getting together with friends, family, and getting fat, and sharing presents, having laughs, giggles, getting completely shit-faced, and all the rest of it. But for a lot of people, Christmas isn't so fond as, saying somebody who is like Christmas less and less of each passing year, and also somebody who feels very lonely for a whole host of different reasons. I kind of empathise with people who are unable to visit their friends or family for one reason or another. Usually it's the family they have to be worried and concerned about on Christmas Day, or any sort of like social functioning gathering. And it just makes me really sad that people feel really alone and shit during the Christmas period, and like suicide rates fucking rocket because of that, and so many other factors. And I wanted to try and help out in some way so people didn't feel so lonely and we could just get together and have fun playing the TTRPG of some description. But I didn't really have the mental fortitude at that time to put together a one-shot and run a game probably for some people, but I did want to play a game with people. And I've mentioned this very recently in my 6th anniversary episode, which is going to appear on a card up there, where I talk about running a game for people in the Discord server who feel particularly sad, lonely, whatever on Christmas Day. So I had the idea of taking Vampire the Masquerade 20th Anniversary Edition and the Mythic GM Emulator 2nd Edition and doing a solo group session theme where we come up with a character together, the backstory, the concept, and I play through the character and they help out with concept ideas and any other bit of friction that comes on the way. So let's say, for an example, that my character would have a conversation with the sheriff because we've done something wrong, we've been caught out. Somebody may suggest, oh, we should lie to the sheriff because we tell them the truth, we're going to get told off. Where somebody might say, well, actually, I think we should make them feel good by getting down on our knees and sucking off their majesty. Now, I could ignore both of those suggestions, I could combine them somehow, or I could then use Mythic's fate chart to try and work out which one of those is more likely and gear things more that way. And as you're about to see, we had a lot of fun coming up with a really interesting character idea that kind of started out as a bit of a joke but actually went off in a very serious, dark direction. And we came up with a story on the fly, which I'm not going to tell you much more about because that's what the rest of this video out. It's a video in 2 parts. The first part is going to be the character creation process, and the second part is going to be the actual play proper. So if you're not interested in the character creation process, you can just jump straight to the actual play, or you can just watch the whole thing from start to end. So I hope that you enjoyed this. This is a very interesting experiment that, at least from the Discord server side of things, I consider to be a success, and people had a nice fun time. There were some people who were there because they couldn't be with family for whatever reason. There was a couple of people there who were feeling ill and they couldn't because they didn't want to infect their family, which is nice. Well, not nice that they were ill, but nice that they were able to feel a bit better because they were able to engage with this game of Vampire the Masquerade, collaborating and bouncing ideas off with me and other people in the chat. So yeah, there's pretty little else that needs to be said at this point, other than the fact there were some tech issues of some description between the 2 parts, which you will see very clearly, and I will apologise for in said part of the video. You won't be able to miss it, so it's there. Sorry if that annoys you, but it's there, so lesson learned, it probably won't happen again. Maybe it will, who knows. Anyway, I'm waffling. On with the actual play. Okay, and I think with all that waffling out of the way, I think we can actually get started creating our V20 character. And we're going to go through the order that I would typically do things. While some people like start from the clan and work backwards, I like to come up with a person who they were first. And then, we can then roll in the clan later on because most character types could fit into a clan or bloodline concept. And we're going to be counting up the bloodlines as well, so we may end up being a Keoseed or a Gargoyle. I'm probably going to be ignoring the Noriad because that's like the only one I would struggle a lot to find to make sense within the grand scheme of things. So, the all-important question that will divide the big, strong adults and the children. What is their gender? What pronouns are we going to be going with this character? And I'm going to go with the first 2 that I see. So, hot on the keys if you want some input in here. Otherwise, I will just roll a d8 on the Aurtakis Storyteller homebrew. NB, okay, I'm assuming that's non-binary, so we're going to go with that. They, them. Awesome, we've got double the NB, they, lots of non-binary in the chat. I absolutely love that. I will also mention again that the D100 I'm using has got this sort of like, that's not appearing very well, this lovely transgender colouring scheme. Of course, trans rights are human rights, so again, for the weirdos who watch my content thinking I'm your ally, politely, fuck off. Right, what age bracket are they going to be in? Obviously, I think we might want to avoid them being children, partly because of a server rule that I have here, but I think if we're playing a kiddie wink here, that might cause a little bit of spicy issues. Early 30s, okay, that's a good start. I will take other suggestions and see if we can find something in between. I rolled and got elderly. Oh, you're using the Aurtakis Storyteller homebrew too. Cool. 80. Interesting, interesting. Well, I'll do the fair thing here and take the two away from each other. So we're going to have this character in their 50s, just to be real spicy about it. So non-binary in their 50s, which I like. We need some more elderly vampire representation within the world of darkness. So we're going to move over to the next bit of the Aurtakis Storyteller. I'm going to go for the upbringing, and I'm actually going to roll on this one, and then we can come up with some ideas after that. I need a bigger desk because I'm quickly running out of room. I'm going to grab the first dice I see, and coincidentally, it is again blue, my favourite colour for this basic bitch that I am, apparently. A chest, of course. So it's a D12, but there isn't a 12 there, so see what we get with this one. That landed on both the 9 and the 11, so I'm going to split the difference and pretend that's a 10. And of course, we land on cultic. So this individual, as a kid, in their human life, was part of a cult. Now, I'm actually going to roll this a couple more times to see if we can get a bit more development from their life, just to build them up a bit more. So, first time, and I shouldn't have put that D12 away, is cultic. What were they like with a teenager? 4, spoilt. Okay, so the thing that comes to my mind here, that they were raised as a cult, they're like a descent, like whoever was running the cult, they are their kid. It's not like some other family that joined in. They were born and raised as part of their cult, and they were spoiled rotten. Everyone probably hated them. They're probably super wealthy. They were into Scientology. Maybe, which is such a scornful thing for an autistic person to say. And as an adult life, spoiled again. Okay, so maybe they took over the cult. Maybe that's the impression here, that parents died, or maybe they killed their parents and they took it over that way. What are we thinking, chat? Did they take the cult fairly? Or did they kill their parents? Or was the cult how they got embraced? Oh, now that's a thought. Maybe there's a separate vampire that's running the cult, and the parents of said cult are like the face or front for it. Ooh, that's a spicy idea. I like that. I think they saw their parents as a means to the end and disposed of them as soon as they arose properly to power. Rival sides. Funnily enough, in the chronicle that I'm part of, we had an elderly vampire NPC, 70-80, old-looking gangrel, where Coldenism as part of her powers based on Norse goddess Freya. Okay. Well, I'm going to combine Wanz's and Bread's idea, in that the cult was how they embraced. I think they saw their parents as a means to an end and disposed of them as soon as they arose properly to power. And of course, our character's in their 50s, so we've had to some time to mature that cheese, as it were. I don't know why I went with that, but you know, we're just spitballing here, and that's just where the mind goes. I think we're going to skip over the occupation bit. Maybe, perhaps. Actually, no, let's roll a d10 here to see. Obviously, their main focus is going to be on that cult, but maybe it might give us some idea just to fine-tune a little bit, like maybe where in the world they are, or who knows. We'll see what happens. So that's a 10. Ah, criminal. Okay, never mind. Okay, so I think, well, clearly being a cult activity, it's not entirely legal. And we can probably use Mythic or something like to flesh out what this cult was doing. It could be a frame for cult's cover. How it works, indeed. Maybe the moonlighting as an influence and pushing shady products. They're nice, Bread. Shady products. I like an influencer cult. Getting younger influencers, hopeful. Obviously, it would change with the times, because as they're in their 50s, it would be like evolving with the times sort of thing. Are they an Avon seller? brilliant. Maybe some spicy, like, beauty care stuff. And I'm using spicy in the sense that it's not quite ethically okay. No, they sell young living. You know what? Just because I think it's funny, we could probably tie in like the beauty products, like an influencer side of things. So maybe it's like an influencer school and like a beauty care thing. Yeah, I kind of like that. And this is the real fun thing with this. I would have never come up with something so cursed and blessed. And maybe they teach kids like how to trade in crypto or something, like giving the old fucking Andrew Tate treatment. Alright, so if we follow through with the Aurtakis Storyteller method, again, this being a V5 product, focus on the ambition and desires, which I think you write down your character sheet. But I think this is useful here just to try and work out the sort of character they're going to be and what exactly they're going to be working towards, other than money. But that is one of the options here, so let's roll a d10 and see if we can come up with anything delicious. Ooh, that nearly went on the floor. 8 is destruction. And 5 would give us peace. So destruction makes me think of a rival, or a sire, or some other person, and maybe from that they find peace within themselves, which kind of makes me think it's like more the sire direction. What are we thinking about this? Is this going to be like the destruction of a sire, or... I mean, that would make sense given the fact that there's a vampire that's controlling the cult and has embraced them into this, and they would want more influence of the cult, so it would make sense that that is what they're going to be ending up being destroyed in. Rather, I can English. Barely. I kind of like those ideas. Side destruction makes sense. Maybe end goal is diablerie for Christmas. You know what? I would usually discourage that sort of thing, but you know what? As it's Christmas and all, maybe we'll go with that one. And it's really funny because I hadn't even talked about what sex this is going to be in Camarilla, Anarch, Sabbat. I was going to avoid Sabbat just because of like the very nature of Sabbat games being very different. So we'll just say that this is like a Camarilla domain. Maybe they claim they're Camarilla just so they don't have to, you know, deal too much of the politics if they say, nay, they're not part of the Camarilla. So destruction of sire. And the Diablo theme might actually work really well, like an absorption of power in all the senses. I like that, it's pretty neat. Anarch Mim, the essential oils will align your chakras by stimulating your pineal gland. You know what, I like that. I'm just going to add to the beauty products notes that I've made. Essential oils. Well, that could be like something else with that as well, but I love that, that's absolutely cursed. I imagine their haven, which is the... Oh, their touchstones. We'll avoid that one just because that's a very V5 specific thing, and we can flesh out like NPCs as and when need be with this one shot, and also this being a one shot I don't think will be too important here. I'm going to roll it in once because with the Aurtakis Storyteller you roll it up to 3 times, so we'll roll it once just to see if we get any inspiration. That's a 4. Makes sense. Family member / descendant. I suspect that this individual has got cousins, probably doesn't have kids themselves, because that would mean, oh, I die, you get all the power, and now they're a vampire. They don't have to worry about that. So we're going to say that this geezer's got a cousin. Actually, chat, how many cousins does this individual have? Just so we can really go to town with all of this. Slogan, oil up and young forever guaranteed. Side effects may include slavish devotion, hair loss, delirium, and massive spending. In a cult, plenty. Yeah, I did presume so. I didn't want to make those sorts of jokes just yet, but I guess we're going places already. 4 cousins. 6 cousins. You know what? Just for the shits and giggles, I might just add all these up. We'll see what Evil Wizard says. They convince their cult followers that they're a younger sibling of Jesus. Okay, so I'm going to add 4 and 6 together. They've got 10 cousins. I'm going to roll on their haven. Just to give us an idea, because I suspect they're going to have quite a bit of money, or as much as a neonate will allow us to have. 6, which gives us organised, which makes sense. You know, want to keep up appearances and whatnot. They're able to leave this cult. They want to seem that they're busy, probably very clean, tidy, modern, I guess. I'm presuming this is a modern cult, or at least it's perceiving itself as a modern cult, you know, with the whole beauty products and essential oils and influencer school that we're going with here. Now, the Embrace. I think it might be a wee bit on the boring side if there was like a whole like ritual cult thing that had them in the Embrace. From what we've come up with so far, this is like a forced embrace, something that was a bit on the violent side of things. That this was a surprise to them, I think. Do we have any ideas for that? Or shall we just roll on the D10 table and see what we conjure up? And I'll also avoid the next table, which is the relationship between sire and child, because it's clear that these two do not like each other. I think D10. Alright, we'll go with that one, Brad. That gives us, what was that? 9. Don't remember. I like that. Which actually could feed into a very nice element of the plot that we go with. Like, we have to find and locate our side because we embraced, and then side just used dominate or something just to wipe our memory of what happened, and we had to learn the hard way that we are a vampire. I kind of like that, especially with something like this where we're going to go after a side, and if we knew where they were, or if we were easily able to access them, might be a bit boring. I like that, a bit spicy. Thank you very much, Dice Gods. And in terms of mythic terms, because there's a whole sheet that goes with that, where you organise your threads, rather, like your story beats, and then the different characters, which I forgot to print out those sheets, but that's fine. I can write that down and I can have that organised for tomorrow, or the next section in this video if you're watching this on YouTube. So what we're going to do now, we are now actually going to translate the notes that we have here onto the character sheet. Now, here's the fun thing. What's their name? I might combine names, I might ignore them. Oh yeah, we're adding all the trauma. Of course, it's a Vampire the Masquerade game with your Law and Saver. What would you expect? Leobard. I like that. Very fancy, very snobbish as well. Remember, enemy names are often household objects or plants. I don't know why that tickled me so much, because I was going to try and go for a more serious thing, but if you want to give them a name, Leonard the Foreskinner. I like it, but I don't think YouTube would like it all that much if I just said foreskin constantly. I think a good thing actually to try and work out first is like, yeah, we decided they are non-binary, but are they female or male presenting? Now in my mind, because men are just assholes, I assumed that they were mask presenting. So that might help us to work out a direction in how we name them. Sage. I like Wormwood, and I like Sage. I think we'll go with Sage Wormwood. Wormwood's got a level of snobbishness to it that I like. And Sage has a bit of mystery behind it. Great work, team. Nature and demeanour. I'm going to assume that Generation 13, just to make things really simple. We don't know who our sire is, other than we've like taken over their cult, but we want them dead. What would be a good nature and demeanour for our character here? Architect might be an interesting one for nature. You build something of lasting value, give that a more spiritualist or materialist thing. Materialist is the actual building of something, so that's not what I meant, but you know what I mean. Demeanour is easy, bon vivant. Not that I don't doubt you, but let's remind us all what bon vivant is, because I think from memory, of course, that all seems quite well. The bon vivant knows that life and unlife are shallow and meaningless. As such, the bon vivant decides to enjoy her time on Earth. The bon vivant is not necessarily irresponsible, rather she is simply predisposed to having a good time along the way. Yeah, I think this makes sense. They have low self-control ratings. Regain a willpower point whenever you're truly enjoying yourself and can truly express the exaltation. Whilst that doesn't apply to the demeanour, only the nature, I think bon vivant, see how many times I can say it without tripping over, bon vivant works quite nicely here. And the nature. Architect is also interesting. Maybe celebrant as nature. Where is that? Takes joy in her cause, whether the character's passion is battle, religion, the foiling her rivals, or reading fine literature. It gives the celebrant the strength to withstand adversity. That does make sense. Regain a willpower point when you pursue your cause or convert another character to the same passion. That is true. I like that one, you know, the whole fucking cult building thing. You know, this is the second solo actual play with vampire I've made with a character being part of a cult. But at least this one's more human rather than the whole Children of Yima thing. Oh yeah, let's go with that one. I like that. I don't think I've used a character with that before either, so we'll pop in all sorts of cherries here this Christmas Eve. Now we get to the fun stuff with the attributes, physical, social, and mental. I am vibing that this individual is social first, mental second, and physical third, which, again, is the most common fucking spread that I do with all my characters. I don't think I've ever made one that's been strength first, other for demonstration purposes, like tutorial things. Just put a bookmark in there. Social first, mental second, agreed, it makes the most sense. The way I popped right on cue, you sounded. Curse my brain. Curse our beautiful brains! Okay, so social, obviously, we're going to be focusing more on the charisma and manipulation. They don't have to be the most gorgeous person in the world if their charisma is off the charts. So I think that's the direction that we're going to be working with, charisma, manipulation, and then appearance at the bottom. So 753, of course. So I'm going to put, and I'm going to say the total dot value because obviously we start with 1 dot in each. Put charisma up to 4. Manipulation is a total of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 for appearance. I'm actually going to make manipulation 4 as well. That should be right. Yeah. Yes, I can math. Yeah, if you don't know about me, despite being autistic, I'm shit at maths. I'm a disgrace to my people that way. So I may stumble over the counting element more than once. And as we have 4 in those 2 attributes, we can have specialties for them. But we'll decide that later on. Have them talk like Xavier Renegade Angel. I have no idea who that is, but judging by the name alone, they sound like a right old tosser. Dyscalcular. So we'll move on to mental. See, the thing that's making sense to me, they would have to, I think they would have, just because I'm envisioning them being a cult, they were like the favoured child, assuming that they had siblings, or probably the only child. They were the only child. They probably had a decent enough education, so their intelligence might be high on that front of things. Rather, their education was good, but they may not be the most intelligent person in the world, if that makes sense. Because intelligence covers a whole range of things with World of Darkness games, for better and for worse. They would probably have their wits about them being the cult leader, and, you know, avoiding and taking down potential competition, etc. and so forth. And a decent level of perception, so maybe wits will be highest, then perception, then intelligence. I'm going to put 1 dot in intelligence now, so that takes us up to 2. Wits is up to 3, and perception is up to 3 as well, so that has our 5 points. But I think that's a sensible amount. Like, he's not like a military tactician, he's not like a brainy scientist, but he's about average, which I like. He's got to have some flaws here. And then there is strength. Sorry, the physical attributes with strength, dexterity, and stamina, level, we have 3 dots to spend. Now, I don't see this person being particularly athletic, so we could go with the very basic, just put a dot in all 3 of them, so we have 2 in total. All into stamina. Interesting. Any advances on all into stamina, or something adjacent to that? My lord, you know it's time to 222. That is fair, as I have just ridden that. We'll see what Bread says. I think they're going to come up with an absolute banger idea, making the 222. Okay, we've got the majority vote of 222. 222. I don't know what song that is, but it involves doing the conga. Alright, so abilities. 39 and 5. I'm not quite too sure on what the spread with this would be, honestly. So I think the way to go about doing this is just choosing the stats that would make sense, and then decide which one's the primary, secondary, and tertiary group following that. Because he's aware of the supernatural world being a vampire, it just makes sense to me that he would have a dot of awareness at like a bare minimum. Has a bit more an alertness and, you know, looking around everything. Expression is going to be fairly high as well, you know, being cult lead and all of that. Leadership as well, as he's the cult leader. Subterfuge, because he's a fucking liar, because, sorry, they're a cult liar. I will probably trip up on that quite a bit, so it's not intentional, so apology in advance. So what do we have here? Because I've put 2 in alertness, 1 in awareness, 3 in expression, 3 in subterfuge, and 2 in leadership. 3, 6, 8, 9, 11. Oh, so we could do a couple more there. I'm going to do 1 more in leadership. Actually, no, because I think they're still trying to establish themselves as the leader. But obviously they are the leader, but they know that there's like an ulterior force behind them that's like controlling them, so to speak. I'm going to actually give them a dot in empathy, because they want to appear as charming and charismatic, so they would obviously want to be a person that the rest of the cult can go towards. I'm trying to ignore the metagaming voice at the back of my head that he would have a dot in brawl, just being able to defend himself, their self. Again, I said I'm going to trip up on that. Where should we put that last dot? Do we put it in the stats that we've already established, or do we put it in somewhere else in talents? I could put another one in empathy. Empathy makes sense. Okay, we'll put that one in empathy. Right, old charismatic asshat. Okay, so if we just move logically towards skills, I think they would know how to drive. So I'll just put a dot down there. Just looking at the rest of them and trying to see what makes sense. Etiquette, I think that makes sense. I put a couple dots at that, so that's 3 in total. I'm feeling this one's going to be the tertiary group with 5 dots. I want to give them a dot on firearms because for some reason I think that it makes sense have they like that criminal background thing that we rolled earlier on. I think so. We'll do that. There's probably like some other drug trade that we don't know about at this point. As silly as this might sound, I'm tempted to put a dot in performance. Purely from the fact that we're dealing with like an influencer school, that maybe there's like an element of them like performing for the camera. If they're American 2 dots as a hobby makes sense. Definitely needs dots in a cult. Definitely, I agree that we'll add to that when we get to that. You know what, just because it made me laugh, I'm going to put another dot in firearms. There's always a good indicator about whether something works well or not if it gets a laugh out of me. Now we go over to knowledges and we go for a cult. What need dots in a cult? That's plural. So we're going to go down with 2. Because fuck it, why not? With the criminal stuff, I think they would at least have some understanding of the law. And with the whole influencer, like beauty oil stuff, they probably know what is legal and they're just sort of skimming the surface about what is and isn't ethical. So I put a dot in law. I don't think I've ever had a V20 character with a dot in law before. Academics, we said that they were going to have a fair amount of dots in that. So that's 3, I think. We've got 6 in total. Technology 1, because they probably know how to like do... Oh yeah, of course, technology and computer are their own stats with this. I was thinking first edition for a moment where they're not even called computer or technology in that one. It's something completely different. It might be technology, I don't actually remember. But they would have a dot in computer just for being able to use a computer. You see, and if V20 wasn't so weird about it, I'd actually put a second dot into that. But that being said, as it's an influencer school, a dot in technology might make sense because they would have to know how to operate like cameras and audio mixers and all the rest of it. And how many dots is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, we've got to have a dots in investigation. And I think with somebody as wealthy as them, actually, I'm going to knock a dot off academics. So that's down to 2 and put a dot in finance. They've probably got like a team of people that do all that stuff for them because being a cult, I'd imagine to be quite big. Thinking first edition based. Thank you, I agree. They tell their followers that the government is funding worm men to eat to make them mutants. I would imagine there is some sort of weird nonsense that is fed down their throats in one form or another. I'm just going to check if that's actually 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we have the ability sorted out, which is nice. We're going to skip disciplines for the moment because we haven't actually decided their clan yet. We're going to go with the background, then do the virtues, and then the clan will be the very last thing that we do. It's a very back-to-front way of doing things, but you know, we'll do things a little bit spicy here. I need to remind myself, again, I can't English. And see, this is another reason why this is so fun, because you don't get to hear all these word slip-ups. Well, You do, but not as frequent as this. So the background, obviously this geezer's going to have quite a bit of money, a bit of ulag, a bit of wonga. Got to have 2 dots in herd, full sending into resources, I like that. And of course we can up some of these with freebie points later on. And because it's Christmas and all, I might give myself some extra ones, you know. And also, if you're doing any level solo prey, I would recommend giving yourself a little extra in anything. So I'm going to write these down before I put dots into them. 2 dots in herd. Yep, I agree. That seems like a sensible amount. 7 vessels. Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, there's a lot more to than that, but I think a herd of 2 is a sensible amount. Fame, I think, could work, because we're sort of known to a certain subculture of people. Like, within that subculture, we have a lot of influence, but beyond that, maybe not as much. Resources, how many do we have? And I'll put the rest in resources for now, and then we can add more with freebie points. So, freebie points could be, or maybe a few dots in generation. Ooh, what's the reasoning behind that? Well, the lower generation has more oomph as a cult leader. That is a good point. I like that idea. And you know what, I might just bend the rules a little bit, just give myself a few points in there anyway. Well, we'll do it at the freebie points. I'm going to write down generation. I won't add any points to that for the time being. I'm also going to put down domain as well, because currently they have no place to live. We can also pick some crippling for compensate. Hey, you know what, I completely forgot about merits and flaws. Yeah, we can do that for sure. That sounds like a great idea. He says haphazardly. Okay, so let us go to the virtues. Now, this individual has got fucking 0 conscience. I don't think it makes much sense. Like, maximum 2. What's the recommendations in the book? Normal. No, that's staying at 1. And I think when we read out Celebrant earlier on, they have a low self-control as well. But this is a character that seems to have quite a bit of control on things. They just appear not to have a lot of control. I'm seeing them having highly self-control for their archetype. Yeah, I agree. Maximum courage and whatever remains to SC. Yeah, I think that all makes sense to me. So, what would that be? Self-control. How many do we have to spend? 7. Probably got more points in courage than anything else. So, 3 total, I think, for self-control. Courage... Resolute might make sense, so 1, 2, that takes us up to 5. You know what, I'm going to do the one thing I usually would encourage people to do. I'm going to make that self-control as 5, because I do not want to increase that conscience by anymore, because it just does not make sense. They just don't give a shit about anything other than themselves, and their power and their influence. So we'll say their self-control is 5 total, so with that point expenditure, that should take us up to a nice healthy 7. Dots spent, that is. Self-control plus conscience. Yes. So that's 6. And willpower is the same as courage, so they've got 4, but we'll obviously bump that up with freebie points as well.
2 very boring minutes later.
This is your compulsory reminder to stay hydrating. Yes, we've got the classic British Herculean Sports Direct mug. I've got fucking 4 of the fuckers in a cupboard somewhere. What I'm going to do, I'm going to be real boring and count up the different clans here. And the bloodlines aren't mentioned in the actual clan bit of the character creation process, so I'll go through manually and count them bit by bit. And then depending on how many there are, we can work out the sort of dice that we're going to be using. So, there should be 13 main clans. 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 14 because, of course, I forget that cative are a thing. I should remember that because 14 is my lucky number. Human focused. And I've forgotten what number we were on. What number had I gotten up to? Fuck. Ah, man. That's alright. I distracted myself as well.
Much later.
27. So, if we start it at the number 2, we should be able to get away with using a D20 and a D8. because I've omitted some of the bloodlines, of course, because I don't think that will just work with the setting. Although, to be fair, I don't think many of the bloodlines have worked with the idea that we've got. What did I say I needed? Joking. I know what I need. A T20 and a D8, and I'm actually looking for the rest of the metallic set just to keep things consistent. Because irregularity with autism just goes, bruh, no. So there's the D20. It kind of looks like that. I don't expect you to see that, but just to know that I found it.
You get the idea.
What did I just saw? Glimmer. That's the D8. There we go. Lovely stuff. Right, the moment of truth. Rolling a D8 and a D20 to see what our clan/bloodline is. And unless it's something really fucking wacky, I'm not going to re-roll these dice either. Right, that is a 17 on the D20 and a 3 on the D8. So that takes us to 20. So we're none of the clans. We're one of the bloodlines. Barley was 14. Sorry, 15. Barley was 15, because 14 would be the cative. 15 were the Daughters of Cacophony. 17 for the Gargoyles. 18 for the Harbingers of Skulls. 19 for the Kia Seed. 20 for the Nagaraja. Our character is going to be a Nagaraja, which puts a very different spin on the whole influence of body oil cult now thing, doesn't it? It also makes feeding a little bit more difficult for us as well, because not only do we have to feed on blood, but we have to feed on flesh as well. Because one of the biggest misconceptions is that they can only eat on flesh. So basically, we're eating the cult. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Sorry. So, our discipline spread with them is... I cannot remember because I'm sort of stuck with what V5 did with them. Auspex, Dominate, and Necromancy, which fits nicely into our character having our brain wiped from Dominate. Not that it would matter too much, because obviously, you know, any clan would have the fucking Dominate, but it's nice that it at least makes some degree of sense, rather than it being served as a plot device. Yeah, someone gets hungry, we're very hungry for money, wealth, and blood. Om nom nom indeed. What is that comment referring to, once, just so I can see the quote contents? Conspicuous consumption, yes, it was foretold, apparently. So, we have 3 dots to spend on Auspex, Dominate, and Necromancy. I think I will just give them a dot in each unless we've got any other advances. Additional merit, go bruh. You know, I forgot that was an actual thing. Is Adobe a cult? Well, it's definitely part of the fucking MAGA cult, given they're one of the biggest backers of Trump's fucking bullshit. And if we don't put a dot in Necromancy, why are we playing a Necromancer? Besides the fact the dice told us to. Okay. Freebie points, 15. I do want to bump up that willpower, and I'm literally going to open up a calculator to keep fucking track of this, because I always do this. Because we might have established my ability to count is shocking. I'm going to make that a healthy 6 of the willpower, so that's going to be taken away 2, which takes us down to 13. I think first things first, just because the shits and giggles, we'll go with the additional discipline merit. I hesitated there because I just forget words sometimes, just as you do. As you do. So we'll give ourselves a dot in presence, because as somebody rightfully pointed out, that does make a lot of sense here. So take 5, which takes us down to 8. A sight of innocence of any sort arouses you a terrible bloodlust. Roll self-control, instinct, or else frenzy and attack the source of your hunger. You know what? I don't know how much of a joke that was. I genuinely like that one. Perhaps as a representation of the struggle of the Nagaraja consuming flesh. Also makes the fact that they are ruling a cult will be particularly difficult and spicy. Yep, that is the sort of diabolical that I was after. Thank you very much, and fuck you too. Masquerade break. You know what? I was just read that one a moment ago. I was literally just having a look at that one. So that might choose that one just on the basis that, you know, again, the one brain cell thing. Masquerade Breaker is another 2-point flaw. In your first night as a vampire, you accidentally broke the masquerade and you were spotted doing so. Someone else covered for your mistake, but holds the favour over you. Now you exist in the fear that your error will be revealed. In the meantime, your saviour takes pitiless advantage of you. The sword can only be taken by vampires and sects of clans that respect the masquerade. We can obviously bend that a little bit, because I presume that this is a Camarilla domain, but this is clearly not a holy Camarilla devote, as it were. Yeah, fuck it, why not? Let's go with that one. Now, there's a flaw in here where the sire hates you or just doesn't like you, or something to that effect. Sires resent them. Your sire dislikes you and wishes you ill. Given the smallest opportunity, your sire actually seeks to do you harm. Your sire allies you, works against you, and the elders may resent you. Which would also make sense, you know, Nagaraja being a Masquerade Breacher. I think that one would work well. It also is a 1-point flaw, so that just knocks us back up. Look at that, the points and concept fit. Yeah, I totally agree. Yes, absolutely. Just baffles the mind. Like, if they didn't like us, why did they embrace us into this cult? Perhaps they built up this massive plan and their experiment went wrong because we're just a complete fucking laughingstock. We've made the cult a lot worse. And the Nagaraja being into their death magic and all the rest of it probably did something wrong and didn't intend to, so we're cursed with their plight, as it were. Okay, so with our 12 freebie points, we can now spend and go crazy within the realms of going crazy. Pisha, my beloved. Magnifique. So, there was something I was wanting to bump up a little bit in the talents department, I seem to recall. And we also needed to decide our specialties for charisma and manipulation, which I forgot about earlier on. We were going to add some more dots to the background as well. Brad had the idea of giving them an older generation. I'm thinking Gen 9, because I think that would be fun. So they're a neonate, obviously, but they're that higher, lower generation, I think. I think that might be interesting. 9, so that's 4 dots. Background is a 1 point per thing. Fuck it, we'll go with that, because why not? Still crazy they thought to include a Nagaraja above the Ravners and VTMB, you know, one of the main 13 clans. Yeah, I think that's really interesting too, and I also think it's really bizarre. In Redemption, it's basically got one of every clan except the Ravnos. That really ticks me off. Like, there's just an opportunity there and they fell flat on their face. Their domain, which in V20 is basically their haven. Well, it represents the haven unless you have more dots where you can like own a fucking city. I'm going to give them 1 dotted domain because we've established it was an organised place, very modern. And 1 dotted domain represents a single small building such as a single family home or social establishment, enough for a basic haven. You can give them a couple more dots in resources, being a cult owner and whatnot. We'll go with that one because the whole thing on them is the fact that they're very wealthy. That's part of their charm. So that's another 2 dots, which takes us down to 6. I'm going to put 1 in I'm tempted to put 1 in performance because of like the whole social media thing. They would like to have to know how to put on a show in front of the camera sort of thing. I agree with that. Yeah, we'll put 1 dot there. And that does require a specialty, so I'm actually going to put camera work. Not quite what I've just described, but the spacing is very minimal, and we know what that means if that ever comes into play. Like, if like we're having been filmed or whatever, like putting on the persona, as it were. So we got 1 more point to spend, and then we can work out the specialties for our subterfuge, manipulation, and charisma. I think, as we've now established them as a Nagaraja, I think it would make sense that they would have a dot in Brawl. That is that. We have now made our character members of the Lore by Night Discord server, and your Lord and Saviour, and the Aurtakis Storyteller have come up with a character that we are now going to be playing solo style, as we try and hunt down our sire and truly claim the power of the cult and our sire for ourselves. Not the sort of character I would have ever thought of conjuring up, but that's just the sort of joy of doing things with solo plays, that using with tables and things, you can come up with some real fucking wacky shit. And also this sort of like collaborative thing has come up with some fucking bonkers shit as well. So here we are with the one-shot proper. My face is actually taking up more of the screen because I'm learning how to use Discord, so sorry for the weird technical things going on, but that's been the least of our worries so far. But as we're now getting stuck in with the actual play, the first thing that we need to do, I think, is actually decide our blood points, which for V20 we roll on a D10, and obviously we've got to use this red one here to symbolise blood, and because we have a dot in domain, we add that to whatever we roll, and the real fun thing is that we are generation 9, so we can actually have a bit more blood points if need be. We're not just stuck at the default 10. So that's all pretty handy to have. So let us roll our very first dice roll of the actual play and see what we get. That is interesting. We roll 3 plus 1 is 4. I'm also going to be doing a fair amount of homebrew with this as I'm going along, because there's some little technical bits and pieces I just can't be arsed with. By which I mean with the blood pool, it's like one stat take away another stat demonstrates how hungry you are. I'm just going to stick with what first edition does, and just say that when our blood pool is at 3, we are considered hungry, which I think is probably the easiest thing to do, as you should be condensing things a lot more with your solo play anyway, just so you're able to remember a lot more. I mean, if you can remember that, that's fine, but I know that I've already forgotten what the thing was, so when our blood pool is at 3, we are hungry. But we're on 4 blood pool at the moment, and I'm getting my additions of vampire confused as well, so we basically need to be sucking off somebody pretty darn quick. So we'll work on that at some point. But one of the really spicy things I want to do, because we are of the Nagaraja bloodline, we need to be eating flesh in addition to blood. And I was going to do our mythic roll, one of many mythic rolls, to see if we've already had our bit of flesh today, because if we haven't, we might be able to incorporate in some of that the cult shenanigans. And to that end, I think we might have a certain bias here. The way that the mythic works is that it's a roll under D100 system, which is why we've been using a D100, or we will be using a D100 actually for this. So it's like Call of Cthulhu in a sense. You've got what's known as the fate chart, and I will hold it up for the screen for those at home able to see. If you're watching this on YouTube, I might put this on the screen in the digital form. So we decide how likely something is going to be, and if it's between the larger number and the smaller number on the left-hand side, it's considered a yes. If it's between the larger number and the ones on the right, it's considered a no. If it's higher than the number on the right, it's considered an extreme no, and likewise, if it's higher than the lower number on the left-hand side, it's an extreme yes, or an exceptional yes and no, which is like with additional bonuses or hindrances depending on which way that we are swinging. We have a chaos factor here, which basically is going to represent how control our character is. People have pointed out that this system is very similar to what I did with the Aurtakis Storyteller, or rather the other way around, to the point where people said that I've plagiarized it, but this isn't the first TTRPG that's used a system like this. And, you know, just to gloat a little bit, Tanner Pigeon actually really likes what I did with the vampire one, so, sit on that and swivel, I guess. So, by default, we are going to be starting on Chaos Factor 5, and depending on how in control or not control we are, we're going to be moving that up and down. It goes higher when we're in control, and it's going to go lower when we're not in control. So really simple stuff. And there's a simpler version of the fate chart as well, if you want to keep things really simple. But we're going to be using the main one, keeping things as vanilla as possible. So what we're going to be doing here, with that little bias I said, I think it'll be really interesting, just given how low our blood pool is, that I don't think we've had a little bit to eat. So I'm going to say that it is very unlikely, just to be really spicy with this, that we haven't had our Om-Nomming of the Flesh recently. And what that means is that if we get an answer that on our D100 dice roll, that's between 5 and 25, that's going to be a yes. But if it's between 25 and 86, that's going to be a no. Higher than 86, it's going to be an exceptional no, and lower than 5, it's going to be an exceptional yes. So, as it would imply, there's a good chance that we haven't had much to eat here. So, let us roll our D100 and see what we get with Chaos Factor 5. What is that? That is 41, and as that's higher than 25 but lower than 86, That is a no. So we have to have a little om nom nom on some flesh today, and I think that's going to be our priority. Being of the Nagaraja, I'd argue in some instances having something to eat with the fleshy side of things might have a bit more of a priority than the blood side of things. And to that end, I think it would be a really fun idea if we incorporate the om nom nomming trademark into the part of some sort of ritual that we're using for our cult here. Committing some horror first thing in the night, oh absolutely, and not just talking about the cult. And I think it would be a nice idea if we can now start using Mythic to determine the nature of this sort of, I don't know, ritual or the creating of the magic oils. So things will get dripped away and then we have bits and pieces to eat, and obviously this being part of a cult, they think it's essential human oils for essential human beings sort of thing. And the way that we're going to do this, again with some D100 tables, we've got two sets of tables here. Action tables, Action 1 and Action 2. So we're going to roll on these two tables, one prompt per table, with our D100, and see if we can come up with some ideas together about the very nature of this sacrificial rite. What is that? That is 53, which is giving us the result on the first table of increase, which is curious given the fact that we are essentially decreasing the participants in our cult. And that is 55. So increase misfortune. So the thing that comes to my mind, and it's always a good idea when you're doing solo play just to go with the knee-jerk reaction, that this is actually a punishment of some description. That we have caught somebody, or somebody has been brought to us because they have done something bad. And as punishment, they are the ones that become of these essential body oils to further the cult riches, their prosperity, trade secret and all of that. And said cultist might not be too pleased with that, given the fact that they have been brought to us in misfortunate circumstances. So I think that's what we're going to be going with on that particular nature. But what exactly has this cultist done? Whilst I look through Mythic to see if I can find some appropriate tables to roll upon, I would love to hear your ideas about that, to see what has this cultist done to be sacrificed in such this manner. Might use the descriptor tables as a source of influence here and see if we get cooking with those. But I'll let you lot come up with an idea or two first, and we can maybe combine these ideas in some way, or we can use the fate charts again to work out the likelihood of one of these things. They tried exposing the truth of the cult, of course. I mean, that does make a lot of sense. The simple one may be the best one here. They remarked the cult food Molsh TM tasted off. Picked the favourite flavour of lotion, maybe. Maybe combining Wizard's result and Crimso's a little bit. That it's maybe because they realised that something about the food or the oils or something about this seemed a bit off, and obviously this sort of sacrificial was behind closed doors, so only the most esteemed members of the cult could see something about this, which could represent our herd, which is about 7 vessels, I think. Noticed that something about the food or the oils was off. They did a little bit of poking around, maybe peered behind the door and saw what was going on, and saw that I'm eating the cultists. The weird things you fucking say in World of Darkness games. So yeah, I think that might be the direction that we're going to be going with here. But the question is, well, one question that comes to mind is that what's this person brought here in terms of willingness, i.e. is he conscious? Or did he put up a bit of a fight and is a bit beating around the edges? Because if he's passed out, then that just adds to the horror of elements. If you imagine this a horror film and this cultist would be the protagonist, they could be doing all bits of investigation, running away, fighting people, and then they get that timely whack on the back of the head, and then they wake up on the sacrificial table sort of thing. I'm going to say that this is just a plain 50-50. Because both of which seems pretty likely, of course. I won't read out the probability numbers again, we'll just tell you the result on what I roll. So, that is a result of 47, which is yes, we're just beneath 50, so that means it's yes. Were they conscious? I don't it was the question I was thinking, but I may have forgotten to word. Yes. So I'm imagining that they're more kicking and screaming sort of thing. Maybe not so loudly, because I think they've probably been gagged or like have a bag thrown over their head or something, just to shut them and keep this as secret as possible. So they arrive all gagged. The cultists have lifted like the mask off, and we're sort of standing there in ceremonial gown, like arms down by our side. We're thinking about all this shit to do with our sire who embraced us, fucked off. We want to go and focus on dealing with our sire, but we're now having to deal with this traitor amongst us. And I think our Nagaraja Sage Wormwood, if I recall correctly, Nagaraja Chief do 1 auto-lethal. Yeah, that makes sense, given what they are. I imagine with our character, Sage Wormwood, he sort of looks down for the cultist holding on to him and just bring him forward. They usher him forward. I imagine it being quite a low lighting room, bit of a stone table, up some pillars, making it really sacrificial out of it. Maybe there's a bit of that nice little hue with candles or whatever, which wouldn't be enough to cause a frenzy of some description just yet. We're sort of walking down these stairs to meet them, gags removed at the mouth, and I imagine the cultist is going to be something like, "You fucking bastards, you're eating our friends and family." And Sage, I imagine, obviously knowing what he is, just will sort of shrug, just maybe with a little sly smile, like exhibiting as much control as he can, said, "Well, yes, of course, it is the most optimum way of providing the essential oils to the..." "No, that ain't right. You're some twisted, fucked up monster." And I think at that point you just like spit him in the eye. Sage would just sort of like twitch a little bit, gets him right in the eye. Actually, I want to see how good that spit was, because he might have just been completely off because of like the height difference. So what I'm going to do now, because I think it'll be funny, I have a special D20 with body parts on them, courtesy of the Fallout RPG. I don't know how well, and that's focusing fairly well. Different body parts. I'm going to roll on that and see where that spittle is actually hitting. The torso, so sort of midsection area, like just like hits him, sort of misses, and there's sort of like a feigned reaction of like disgust, horror, but I think there's going to be mostly chuckles because of how poorly he missed. And obviously our vessels, you know, they are the most loyal to the cult. They are acolytes, as it were. Just not very impressed, for lack of a better phrase. It's just Sage, maybe he's got like a handkerchief or something, just swiping it off and just, oh. Actually, we should give this cultist a name. I mean, it's probably not very important because he's about to die, but shall we give the guy a name? Or woman, or non-binary person? Let's see what we come up with. Are they mass presenting? Let's conjure up with something spicy. Joe Bob. Okay, we're going to go with Joe Bob. That's the first one that I've seen, so we're going to roll with that. Oh, Joe Bob. You showed such promise, and look where you now. Such a disappointment. You don't get to judge me. You are eating people. I am eating resources and leading them to a greater purpose. Obviously, just lying through his fucking teeth. He knows exactly what he's doing here. Maybe once upon a time this cult was creating something that was fairly useful, but now it's become something that's a bit more of an toxic work environment. Within the realms of cults and their toxicity. Is this guy going to fight back? Because I think at this point, like, Sage is like getting like within like grabbing distance. I think it's going to be very likely, actually nearly certain, that Joe Bob here is going to fight back. So, oh, that does not count. So, nearly certain. Let's roll on and see what we get. What is that? That is a 36. Yeah, so that's a yes. I think whilst he's on his hand and knees, he's going to like try and tackle Sage, you know, to try and knock him over and give himself a bit of time to do something, which is a really silly feat, honestly, you know, because he's got like other people around him. But we're going to treat this like a short bit of combat exchange. I don't have a character sheet prepared for him because obviously we have created this person on the fly here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to refer to a method of mine known as the 357 technique, where for any NPC within the world of darkness, you basically just grab any number of dice, 3, 5, or 7, 3 representing weak stats, 5 representing strong stats, and then 7 representing really good stats, and just using that as like a general pool. And as we've got like the health tracker here on our character sheet, we've got that to refer to if damage needs to be taken in consideration. To that end, I'm going to be ignoring bashing damage, because I think that's always been a bit of a weird and nebulous thing. It's a bit more, again, in line with the first edition stuff, which I didn't realise when I was actually doing that rule initially. But anyway, I'm going to say that Joe Bob is going to have a little pool of 4 to represent this, because I can't see Joe Bob being particularly hench. Maybe if on a bit of the speedy side of things, so we're going to roll their pool of 4. I'm going to say this is difficulty 7, because they're on their knees, they're bound, they're really acting on impulse here, doing their best to get away. So I'm going to roll 4d10, difficulty 7, and see what they get. And then once I've done that, we're going to roll on Sage's character sheet stats and see what happens there. So with Joe Bob, we've got a 7, a 10, and 2 6s. So that is 2 successes for Joe Bob. And we're going to try and get out of the way with Dex and Athletics, which actually isn't a good pull for us because we've only got 2, and that's just on Dexterity. But not to metagame this or to like to put this as give me an advantage, you know, for the sake of it. I think realistically, because we're on our legs, they're on our knees, if they're doing it at diff 7, I think it makes sense that we do this at diff 5, but with 2 dice, we basically have to meet that, just for it to be a tie, just for it to be something of a scuffle. So yeah, despite the fact that we've got this NPC who seems fairly weak, we are particularly weaker still in this situation, and I'm not going to be using any blood at this point to bolster myself up, because there isn't any need, and I do have a plan if this goes completely tits up. That is 1 success, so they beat us by a margin of 1. So I imagine because of that, he doesn't quite get him where he wants to get him. He sort of like gets him in like at the waist and sort of like doesn't quite knock him over, but sort of like gets him on one knee. More gas as other cultists like get involved. Of course, he's got his hand bound, he can't do much. He tries to run away. The other cultists like try and get round, and Sage will just go, "Stop! Desist! This madness." They all take a step back, a bit shocked, perhaps. Joe Bob is like trying to struggle a little bit, like getting back on his feet, trying to act, you know, maybe to run away, maybe to do something else. And Sage will just make direct eye contact with Joe Bob and just go, "Kneel," employing command with Dominate. And I've just realised I've ruined the whole focus of the camera. I'm sorry. Manipulation and Intimidation, which is equal to the target's current willpower. I'm going to say in this instance it's going to be a diff 4, because for NPC mortals you typically want them floating around free, but as we're showing they have a bit of a resilience to find out the truth, I'm just like edging them a bit further to a bit stronger than most in that resilient side of things. So I don't think the specialty counts for this because it's hardly persuasive, it's very much a command. So that's 4 plus just 4 dice, okay, because we don't have anything Intimidation, which is fine. 4 is a fairly decent amount to be rolling on anyway. Difficulty 4. Okay, and that is 4 successes, which I think is a pretty good thing indeed. And with that number of successes, all sense of anger and desperation to flee and to spread the truth or whatever it is just sort of evaporates. And he gets on his knee like the obedient little boy that he is, just watching his master. And with that, I think I would activate Presence, because we did decide that we're going to have that as an additional merit. Charisma and Performance, which is a fairly decent thing for us. That's a pool of 5, because that's 1 with Performance, and 4 for Charisma. But I do think our specialty of Smooth Talking is going to apply for this, because of whatever I'm going to be spewing from my maw. So that's 5 dice, difficulty 7. Let us see what we get. That's not good. I got a 1 and I had an 8, which would have given me 1 success. Oh, I read that. I misread that. That's a 9 rather than a 6. Okay, 1 success. That's fine because I only needed to subdue 1 person. And that is the person I'm currently dominating. So I've done that. Splendid per point. We're now considered hungry. So maybe we're a bit hangry as well. Again, hands down by our side. We're making eye contact. And because of how well we did with command, I imagine that he's just going to be watching us all the way through. Like, as we move around, he'll be moving his head with us. So he's beginning to wander around in his, like, robes. I imagine everyone else, the vessels, as it were, and I think that's actually a nice name for the highest ranking members of our cult, the vessels of oil. I've got like this sort of reddish robe on them, sort of like as a representation, like they are the source of blood, whatever, and we've got like a purpley blacky robe, like real fucking cult vibes here, all important stuff. My lovely vessels. I'm going to use that in just a moment. I like that. He wanders round. He starts talking. Joe Bob. Yes, there is some truth in which you speak. That the absorption of flesh and the drainage of fluids is the most remarkable source for our essential oils to nurture the flesh, the pores, the bags, the wrinkles. What keeps us young will forever make us young. But that's what we tell people. And I imagine as at some point, like, he puts his hand on his shoulder, really creepily, being a mask-presenting person in their 50s, like just stroking things down a little bit. But there is so much more for that, because not only does your body help the lives and the comfort of so many people across the world, and they stand right in front of them and like lift a chin up so they're making direct eye contact, but it also keeps this wonderful body of mine forever active. And with that, with complete in control here, a massive bite is just ripped out of the neck. Blood begins to pour down them, and I imagine from what we're doing that they're like a grill floor all the way around, so all the blood and all the juices begin to trickle their way down in like a massive set of pipes or something that gets like spiraled down and drains off into these other little containers that goes through various levels of processing, etc. and so forth. And as we've got the money, we can afford to do this really creepy shit. Real Tim Burton, Sweeney Todd sort of thing. And of course, with this massive chunk taken out of the neck, he sort of like drops and spasms on the floor as the light bits of life is just trickles away down into these pipes. He goes to like grab his neck, but there's no real use. The blood just like seeps through the fingers. It just pours everywhere. Bits of his entrails or whatever that particular lining of like vessels and flesh that just comes from him just comes out. With another handkerchief, perhaps one supplied by the vessel, he sort of like dabs his mouth carefully, licks his lips. His more enhanced fangs go back into his mouth. And I say that because the Nagaraja eating flesh, I have always envisioned them having like a more bulkier jaw. I know there's a flaw in Law of the Bloodlines where they have a particularly monstrous jaw, but I've always like headcanoned that the Nagaraja have something a bit special for that. Someone brought whole ass legs to the That sounds rather delicious. I hope you enjoy. Ravioli, what's in my pocket? Totally. And I think with the same vessel that handled them, the I've lost words. Handkerchief. Oh, I've just had an idea. Because one of the things that we rolled in the previous session, that this character has got like 10 cousins, and I know that we've got like 7 vessels. Shall we say that the vessels are actually our cousins, and we're feeding upon our cousins? I think that might be a particularly spicy idea, just really keeping it in the family, so to speak. I'll use this moment to take a little bit of water. Stay hydrated. I think it would be pretty messed up. I like it. Good, we'll go with that. So the vessels, who are also the closer to the family, so it makes sense at a narrative level as well, rather than just being really fucking weird, is amongst our family. So rather than taking a huge flesh out of them, he turns to the cousin. With the dead Joe Bob, presence and awe have been dropped now. It is time for you to offer your neck to me. and just willingly just like cast the neck aside sort of thing. Incest coded equal find. I mean, it works for the Giovanni, it might as well work for us. Offers the neck, and as pointed out, the Nagaraja bite does lethal damage, so it's going to hurt a bit more. So there's like a yell. But maybe these vessels have been conditioned to like it in a real creepy sort of sense, that they're doing the whole good thing. There's going to be a bit of blood that trickles down, but not too much. I'm going to drain enough to basically knock them the fuck out. Because we really don't care about our family, we just need that fix. I'll leave them with 3 and just drain them 7, which leaves them in a really bad, like, they need to be fucking hospitalized sort of state. My lord, you have taken too much blood from me. He needs to go to the hospital. Did you say that I took too much? Are you saying that what I have done is taking advantage of our esteemed church? It's like, no, of course not. No, I'm sorry. We have the facilities here. Use those. Do not take them to the hospital. We're just wasting their time. Which clearly they are more than capable of doing, but we take them to the hospital, that's going to bring shit down upon all of us. So, the cousins are the most conditioned to our ways, for better and for worse. Clearly, we've now established that there's a little bit of fear there as well. So, that'll be fun to throw back in our face for the time being. And with that, I think a kind of a botched ceremony, because we had like the whole table and thing prepared, but given how things played out, it worked just as nicely in our favour. Must be the least favourite cousin. Yeah, that probably works. Older brother, maybe. That might work. I quite like that. Of course, especially if we're going to lean into like the more incest sort of thing, or rather the other way around. Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. And I think with that, like sort of wiping the face away, it's like haphazardly removing the robe and like just shoving it in the nearest vessel. It's like walking out the back doors to the more personal domain. It's got no windows around. It's more like an office with a bed sort of thing. And I guess this sort of like moves on to the next scene, as it makes sense. We're sort of transitioning from one to the other. Now, because we have done this, we need to have a look at our chaos factor for Mythic. And I say that we're pretty much in control there. There was a little bit of a slip up when our cultist body thought they could try and get away with exposing the truth of our esteemed ways. 5 to 6, so things might get a bit more spicy here. Now, the main objective of this actual play, or however far we get with it, is to go and try and work out where our sire is. So we're sitting in our office, we've thrown the robes at somebody, we sit behind this desk, computer, all the rest of it, making it look as official as possible. Maybe there's like another door or something, or maybe there's like a private office. Probably makes sense as it's all super private. Sits there, buries their head into their hands, frustrated that their attention has been taken away from the potential of a mini revolt, as it were. So they're sitting there, pensive-like, frustrated-like. Why have you done this to me? Bestowed me with idiots like this? What do you plan for all this? What is this for? Why do you hide like a coward? Where do I begin my search? Which is actually a rather interesting point, because I know we sort of talked about in the previous session that it wouldn't make a lot of sense that they don't know where to start looking, but I'm just going to confer with Mythic, because you never know, because something like that could really help us out, because it might give us some direction where to look. But as we said, that it's highly unlikely that they don't know where they are, I'm actually going to say, because, you know, they disappeared, they don't remember their embrace, they've had to work everything out for themselves. They would have had to learn necromancy from some other source. I'm actually going to say it is nearly impossible that we know where our sire is. So we'll have to start looking elsewhere, like using a bit of investigation, making some educated guesses. Maybe we're on the clues table and we can interpret what's our lead. I like that. I'll definitely have a look at that in just a moment, because whatever we can do, we can incorporate that with yay or nay. But I like that. I forget that there was something like that. So anyway, nearly impossible. Chaos factor of 6. It's probably going to be a big fat no, but you never... No. Oh, what is that? Is that a 10 or 7? That is 10 exactly. But that's still a no, because it's between 5 and 25. That's a really no... Oh, sorry, I'm getting confused. That's a yes. See, weird, wacky things like that. So they know where to... Well, maybe not they don't know, but they've got a good idea where to start looking rather than being completely left in the dark with that sort of thing. I think that kind of makes sense of what everything we've been doing. But yes, I will definitely look at the clues table. If, I don't think I've actually used this with Mythic 2nd Edition, so forgive me for a moment as I try and work out where it is. Unless you've got the page to hand, then I'll definitely just use that instead. It's Cryptic Message. That works just as well, because we can obviously interpret that. Okay, well, we'll be popping a cherry here. Cryptic Message. Okay, I'm going to roll on this one twice, because it's one table with D100. Just, you know, to stick with the whole general theme here. So they say, where do I start looking? Obviously they're going to have like the little light bulb moment to work stuff out. That is 22. Is that a 2? Yes. It's not so easy to read in the light with the metallic, but that's why I'm going to roll with it. 22 is Defiant. I immediately get an Anarch vibe with this, which probably doesn't make a lot of sense being an Nagaraja, but you never know, you never know. We can always take it a Mythic if we're unsure. And 1. I just roll a 1. Okay. Defiant Abandoned. Someone left to die that survived. An escaped ally of our sire has given us his last location. Who would that be? The ally might be whoever taught us the necromancy. That maybe they've done a bit of investigation of their own because they were helping us for something. Or maybe we have to do something for them first. We go and meet them. Oh, I've got the location. You've got to do X thing first. Someone left to die that survived. Maybe we can incorporate that into the objective of sorts. I'm going to expand the someone left to die... Someone left to die that survived idea. And expand that with the action tables. Or maybe the descriptor tables. No, I'm going to go with the action ones because I find that one the most useful. And see what I can come up with. And if I really struggle, with that one. So, roll number 1, that is 53. Did I roll that previously? Yes, increase. Okay, increase. And 2. Fair enough, maybe we'll roll 3 next time. Increase. Agreement. Someone left that to die that survived. Increase agreement. Might put a pin in that, because that's not coming up to anything at the moment. So let's go back a little bit. We're showing where to look. We have that little light bulb moment. The ally gives a little cheeky little phone call. I imagine just for snobby purposes, you can get like those Bakelite phone attachment things for smartphones, just because of that particular age where they would still remember that, you know, of a whole nostalgia thing. I guess they pick up the Bakelite thing and answer, who is this? And I'm going to leave it down to you. What's the name of this character that's phoning us? And also, what necromantic clan or bloodline are they? I'll let you decide this one. And I'll go for the one that I see first. So if you've got a burning idea, start typing away. Magnolia. I like that. Royal Kitchen's got an idea. And Cappadocian. Okay, we'll go with that. Magnolia the Cappadocian. Or Cappadocian. Wherever, I'll flip between the two because that's what I tend to do anyway. Is that you, Sage? Why, yes, it is. Who else would it be? I might have been able to find a solution to the little daddy problem of yours. Sage being of that age, not quite understanding the joke behind that. I imagine Magnolia from that is a bit younger, at least visibly and perhaps actual age-wise. So, are you going to tell me? No, not over the phone, you big dummy. Come meet me at the agreed location, and we'll talk there, in private. Hands up. His eyes widen with this realisation that finally they are going to have the truth to their answers, that where is their sire and what they're doing. And because we made our character Generation 9, I'm assuming that our sire is significantly older. Okay, I'm going to throw the ball back to you. What is the designated location that our two characters are going to be meeting up? And it can be as serious or as stupid as you want. I'll allow a few suggestions here, maybe combine a couple of them. And then we can use maybe Mythics to flesh things out a bit more, give it a bit of painting, as it were. I like the location Mythics able to decide. Okay. Might lean a bit more into that. I can see the Royal Kitsunes typing away, so I'll see what they conjure up. Maybe combine some elements together. Unless, of course, they're going to say the same thing, then... Oh, you're going to say the same. Cool. Absolutely fine. Okay, in that case, I will just use the general description tables and see what we can come up with together. And I suspect, being the snobby influencer person they are, with a great sense of entitlement, that we are not driving the car even though we've got a point of drive. No, 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 no. We are being driven there in something rather fancy. Blacked out windows, the whole shabam. So, descriptor table 1. That's not 53 again, is it? No, that's 59. Almost a nice number. Lightly. And that is 5. So we're missing out 3 and 4. What did I say it was? Lightly 5. Beautiful. Lightly beautiful. So maybe a small art gallery of some description. Which is a bit of a weird thing, given the fact it's at night. But maybe this Cappadocian is like serving as like a member of staff or a curator or something like that. But that's a little thing that comes to mind. Like an art gallery sort of thing. I'm actually going to roll on one of those tables again, just to see if we can just add another detail to that. I'm going to do odds and evens to decide which... Actually, no, alright, chat. Which descriptor table should I roll on again? 1 or 2? 2, alright. That gives us 50. We're getting all 50s. What is this? Lacking. Interesting. So maybe it's a new project. Maybe it's a building that's been set up, or maybe renovations because it's all shit. But then again, it's beautiful, so I think it's established but lacking. So I think we're going for like the new art gallery sort of vibe here. So probably explains why these two vampires are able to access things fairly easily. And because I see the Royal Kitsune has come in with another option of 2, I'm actually going to roll it again, just so we can continue to add to the description of things that I rather like. 34, which gives us forlorn. Oh, now it's gotten real fucking sad. So maybe the bit that's being worked on is like filled with like late romantic paintings, which I think fits the description rather nicely. Obviously being night, construction work, there's not going to be too many people about. We can access it in quickly, don't have to do too much stealthing involved. A beautiful art gallery, burnt down but not being built back up again, so it's slightly under construction. Ooh, I like that. Cool, that's why it's been underworked. It's been burnt down recently. So yeah, that's cool, so we'll go with that. So we're being driven there by one of our vessels, one of our cousins, all very lavished out limousine sort of thing, very OTT. That's just inspired me, because we were trying to work out what was the favour that we had to do, like, to get the information. Maybe the thing that we're going to get asked to do is to, like, to sponsor them, or, like, to contribute to some of the money to pay forward with that. But I'll get onto that in a moment. I think that's a nice little thing to do. So we get out of the car, wearing a coat. I'm actually going to... I have a weather chart thing. I quite like doing weather. And if we go with what period it is, so it's winter, and roll a D100 just to determine what the weather is like. 24, which gives us flurry. There's a notable breeze, nothing too much. It's dark, not raining, which for England is rare. We see this building... Clearly has had, like, the effect of it being burned down, and just... I wonder if we can smell it still. We have Auspex. We could do that, actually. With heightened senses. How recent in this fire? Like, if it was, like, last night, for example, it would be particularly thick in the air. Actually, let's go to Mythic to decide that. How recent was the fire? As we're thinking as the storyteller to imply heightened senses here, I'm getting the impression here that this fire has happened a fairly some time ago. So I'll say that it is unlikely that it's happened recently. What is that? Oh, 44. And I put a pin in that. I need to talk about that number. So that is... Yes, the fires happened not recently. A weird wording, but that's the thing that I was going for. Now, we have rolled a double 4. And because of that, a random event is about to occur. If you rolled a double digit, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, etc., and the single digit the value the number is equal to or less than the current chaos factor, for which 4 is lower than 6, then a random event happens in addition to the question. So this is talking about the fire that happened quite a while ago. So we're going to come over to the random event focus table, and apologies for my slurring of words as I'm talking faster. I'm just getting a bit excited by this. Yes, let us roll and see what happens. That gives us 23, which is an NPC action. Realistically, it's going to be either us, Magnolia, or the cousin who drove us there. And there are 3 things here, and I have a D3 that I'm going to roll upon, and I remembered to get this out. And what this is basically, it's just a nice little D6 that's just labelled up to 3, rather than halving a D6. It's one of the more useful die that I have. It could also be the sire. That is true. Maybe that's why they know that the sire is here. And then we can work out whether it's a good or bad thing or not. Because, oh, yeah, your sire is just, like, buried here, for example. It could be something like that. Or it could be a double crossing. Okay. Let's go to Mythic. And ask, is the sire at the museum? If I'm being honest, I think it is unlikely. I think it's more of a case of... I can point you in the direction of it, where the sire is located, but you've got to, as we talked about, give us a bit of a mwonga for it. So I'm going to say that it's unlikely, so not totally out of the question, but who knows. So let's see what happens. Chaos Factor 6, we're rolling on that. That is 80, which is a result of, no, the sire is not here. But I do like that idea. That could have caused some very interesting spice. So back to the NPC action. Magnolia is going to be 1. Oh, it's an NPC action, isn't it? It's not... So I should remove myself from the equation. So we'll just roll on a D10 and decide odds or evens. Odds will be Magnolia. That's 8. So it's the cousin of ours. What does the cousin do? And for which we come over to the action table. Now, this was meant to be a, yes, perhaps positive thing. Which is interesting that we're doing that in association with the fire. Maybe it's just as simple as them commenting about it. Nah, let's use the action table. I think we can get something real spicy, because this is a very interesting thing for me. And I think it could generate something particularly spicy, because my brain is just going at 100 miles an hour now, and I want to define that a bit more with these action tables. 84, so no 50s at the moment. 84 is struggle. And 42, idea. Okay. Struggle, idea. I think that is just a simple premise of, like, the cousin in question driving us. What's this cousin's name? Because we haven't named any of the cousins yet. Francis, you're cooking with these names here, folks. I love it. So Francis, I imagine, is, like, failing to comprehend, like, who would, but, like, why, like, the state of the art gallery. Maybe they're just distraught. Maybe, like, a tear is just rolling down their eyes. Just like, older brother. Who would do such a thing to such a beautiful gallery? Because we've sort of established already that the vessels are a bit on the emotional side from all the preaching and the fear and possibly beatings we've been giving them. It's like, who would do something to such a beautiful gallery? And I think Sage is just going to completely fucking ignore them because of how low they are on their expectations. Just looks of it. And of course, this all came about because we were about to use heightened senses to try and see if our character can ascertain how long ago the fire was. So to that, we'll now do the perception and alertness roll. If it was a games master and I had the knowledge that the fire was some time ago, I would say this is going to be a difficulty of 8, just because of the state of the weather and things. It's cold, wind and all the rest of it. So decreasing it by 1, which is our level of Auspex, makes that difficulty 7, which means we're going to be rolling 5 dice. So it's a moderately sized pool. 1 success. Okay, so they tap into their primal senses of the beast within, just as they taking in that reflexive air, maybe deep from the lungs, but reflexive. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but they're going through the motions of it. They're knowing what they're doing. They're taking a big scent of the smell, because it's England. It smells like shit and piss most of the time. So they get all of that, just like making them feel a bit unwell. Maybe the vessel hasn't washed for a little bit and they're feeling a bit sweaty. Maybe they can pick up the scent of the fucking tear. But for specifically the smell of the building, they can just like smell it a bit more, but they can't quite work things out. They're not quite getting it. There's like too much distractions going on from other smells around them. Such and such in the back. Francis, as we've now called, starting to ask too many questions. Yeah, just like really off-putting stuff. They turn off heightened senses and just like walk through the most logical path for all the construction stuff. As it's been a while ago, I don't think it makes much sense that you've got like fucking bits that are hanging off that's going to cause too much of an issue, so I'm not going to worry about that. They're sort of like walking along, observing the damage, and there's going to be Magnolia, just sort of like within the vicinity rather. I tried combining proximity and vicinity together for some bizarre reason. What do they look like, Magnolia? Like, what sort of clothes they're wearing? Like, hair? Give me any descriptions of what they may look like. Just to flesh this character out a little bit, because you've created them so far, and I'd like to see what you lot conjure up. Rolled on Mythic just in case, and I got Wildly Mighty, which fits what you folks said. Heavy boots, ragged baggy clothes, brown hair. Average punk, yeah, I was thinking average punk, like entry-level goth sort of thing. It's a very interesting fit for Cappadocian, which I like. Yeah, we'll roll with that. Like, perhaps a bit of, like, fuzzy hair as well. Maybe they were embraced in the 70s or the 80s as well. Well, actually, we'll split the difference. We'll say right on 1980s, which is, like, just in time for the goth period, but also just like the late end of the whole punk stuff as well. More new wave sort of thing. So probably like sitting on a perch of a beam or like a shelf or something, or a windowsill. That's what I mean, not a shelf. Even though we all use windowsills as shelves. This kid, essentially, I'm imagining him as like a late 20s sort of individual who's a kid for all intents and purposes from Sage's perspective. They're sort of like looking around like, what happened to your fancy beauty project? Oh, burnt down, can't you see? Yes, I can see that, but how long ago was that? Oh, so, a week or so ago? It's a real shame, that. Don't know how, don't know why I'm still looking into that, but that's not why I want you here. I'm having some other people looking into that, which I'm saying so we don't get into a side quest and like expand this much longer than we need to. But while I am here, I'll tell you what you want to know. Providing that you're willing just to like to... throw in a bit of coinage, for a bit of, culture, as you're dealing with culture on the face, if you deal with the culture of the mind. Now, Sage isn't probably too happy about that being, exploited, or at least that's how they're viewing this. But, are they going to give them the money? I'm going to leave this to Mythic, because I think the result might be funny if we don't do that. So, if we go to the fate chart again, I think it is... given that Sage is a wealthy white person, it is very unlikely that they are going to willingly hand over the doulage. Doulage? I don't know what word I was going for then. It's been a day. So, let us roll Chaos Factor 6 and see what we conjure up. Because I'm treating this all as the same scene, even though we've moved from like office to museum, art gallery, because it's all been part and parcel of the same thing. we have got a 64 to the question, are they going to hand over the dual edge? I'm going to roll with that now. No, they're not, which I didn't think they were going to. Which isn't pleasing Sage all too much. And it's like, I don't appreciate you taking advantage of the situation here. We're doing a very powerful and dangerous man and woman and person eating vampire, and you want to use as a means to steal money out of me. It's hardly stealing money. I'm just asking to be a sponsor for the project. Like, come on, you tight-fisted bastard. Cough up. And Sage, they ain't too happy with that. Now, they've got a fair amount of self-control here, so they're not going to, like, flip out or anything. But we're going to exercise a bit of command here and said, tell me where my sire is. Now, there's a vampire involved here, so their willpower's going to be a bit higher, but we don't know the generation of this kindred here. Now, being their age when they were embraced, I think it is realistically possible that they're going to be like Gen 10, 11, 12, and 13, so that's a D4. But to make things spicy, I am prepared to make them Gen 9, to make things a bit spicy as well. In fact, let's throw in the D6 there as well, and make them Gen 8, because there's going to be that one chance we won't be able to employ Dominate on them. Just to make things real spicy. Because usually I will just say this is just like neonate shit, but, you know, it's Christmas, so let's make things particularly spicy. So, I have this singular D6, which is covered in, like, red splatter. It came with a slasher, funny enough, solo horror game I got last Christmas, in fact. Talking generation, dominating spicy, indeed. Basically, we're leaning into the idea of, like, Sage giving Magnolia some money for the museum. Sage ain't too happy with that, and now they're going to try and use Dominate to try and force the information out of them. And we're basically talking about what generation they're going to be, because if they are of a lower generation than them, it's not going to work. So, Gen 8, Gen 9, which is the same as us, 10, 11, 12, 13, which takes us up to 6. Because we're not going to be dealing with thin bloods, because that just gets a bit complicated for the purposes of this. This is like a fully fledged vampire. We don't know what we're working with here. So let us roll on a d6. Again, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 2. So there's the same generation as us. Cool. It does mean that we can do our fun shenanigans with them, but they may be a bit more, well, they're clearly more expensive in this whole vampire lark as us, but that's absolutely fine. So what was it last time? It was manipulation and intimidation against their willpower. They are a vampire, so it's going to be like difficulty 6. So let us roll our roll. Now, again, our specialty doesn't quite work here, because it's very much the command of, tell me where my sire is. So that is going to be, again, 4 dice, we need to get the difficulty of 6. Because this is particularly important to us, I am going to spend a willpower point to guarantee myself an automatic success that cannot be removed with the presence of wands, because wands remove successes. Thin-blooded Cappadocia, now that sounds like a headache and a half, just barely. Yeah, I'm surprised that fucking V5 didn't do anything fucking shit like that as well, as they're so enamoured with thin bloods. Okay. Oh, that's not bad. We got a 9, 2 9s, and a 7, so that is 3 successes. Damn. I'm really glad that that worked. Because that wouldn't have gone terribly if it didn't. So there's just like moment of hesitation where it's like, they go to, like, to insist about the money, but they get, like, the whole my headcanon of, like, their eyes get greyed out, becomes a bit milky, comes over again, and they begin... Oh, and the willpower, yes, I'd completely forgotten about that, thank you, so that's 4 successes. Yes, that I completely forgot about the willpower. So 4 successes, okay, that did the trick. So yeah, I'm going to go back to the descriptor tables and see what sort of environment we can work out, because we haven't asked about why the sire has left, it's just a matter of where they are. Again, 2 sets of D100 roll. That is 95, which is threateningly. That's, maybe that Anarch idea might actually do the trick. And that is 61, threateningly messy. Okay, that I did that once had about, like, treating with somebody that had died, had survived, might work pretty well into this. Again, that fucking foreshadowing you have, dude, that is wild. Threateningly messy. Well, I think this is actually now a good time to ask, does this have anything to do with the Anarch faction of vampires? Not that I was particularly caring all that much with it, but with Season 1 of the Playing with Thyself podcast, I had this whole, like, war blood hunt between the Camarilla and the Anarchs. It was like a full blown out war. Maybe it was something to do along those lines. I don't want to integrate that too much here. It's like a special one-off thing, but who fucking knows? It may well be something connected to do with the Anarchs. So just move that out of the way there. So yes, I think as we're sort of leaning in that direction, getting kind of excited like this, I'm just going to say that it's likely that this is connected with the Anarchs somehow. Yeah, let's roll the dice. That is 21, which gives us the result of, yeah, it's got to do with the Anarchs. But it doesn't quite answer the question of where the actual physicality of things. Again, just the whole dice rolls can just steer things up in a different direction. So I'm going to roll on the descriptor tables again, and see if we can pin that down a bit more. That is 20... was that 1 or 7? That's a 7. 27. Emotionally. Spicy shit indeed. And 29. Where is that? I can't read. Emotionally familiar. The thing that comes to my mind, family related, yes. Maybe they never left the site of the cult. Because they're the ones that established it, they're the ones that control it. Maybe they're just hiding in the facility that we just don't know about. Which kind of makes the whole travelling out to the museum a bit redundant, but then again, the Cappadocian hoped to get some of the money from us. Maybe they pulled us away from the location so they wouldn't hear about it over the phone or anything. Which does actually make a bit of sense. So, but that's connecting to the Anarchs. So maybe they're hiding from the Anarchs, because we're like leaning that idea in a bit more. Well, let's focus on one question at a time before we get completely brain farted out. Are they actually hiding within the cult premise, which you didn't actually work out what it is? I imagine it like a... Despite this being England, I'm imagining it's been like a gated off like cult town, although there have been a few of those in the UK. There's like a couple in the 70s and 80s, I seem to recall. I might be mistaken with the dates there, but there was something on the TV about it fairly recently that I was watching. I don't know. I'm going to go with 50-50, which isn't really 50-50 in this instance because it's like Chaos Factor 6. But we'll go with 50-50 and see what we can conjure up here. Is our sire hiding within, like, the cult town? That is... fucking hell, 8. Which with that is an exceptional yes. So not only are they hiding there, but there is something else there as well. So it's like another detail that Magnolia knows. And it may not necessarily be a good thing. Yep. Yeah, we've sort of established that they're controlled from the Session 0 in the from last night. We had kind of established the idea that they're controlling the cult from the shadow. So maybe it's actually a lot more than we think it is. Maybe actually, because I don't think we actually established properly. Like, our sire has embraced us to control the cult. That much we do know. But maybe this is like the revelation that we have properly. That our sire is the one controlling the cult. They have vicissitude and stole some cousin's skin. Oh, that was actually quite a good serious idea, actually. I thought that was just like a silly idea. Maybe they're sort of masquerading a little bit. See, because I had the idea purely because I'm planning on rewatching Black Christmas again, like they're sort of like hiding in the walls sort of things, like really spying on us that way around. But they're also using the facility to hide from the Anarchs. So yeah, they know these extra details, and not only are they hiding in the cult town, they controlling things from the shadows, but they have been spying on us. They have other servitors, etc., and so forth. Not going to lean into the vicissitude idea, but I do like the idea that they have been, like, maybe hiding beneath our noses the whole time. Maybe every so often, like, they just pop out, like, hiding under the robes sort of thing, just to see us in action sort of thing. But I want to talk a bit more about that Anarch idea that we seem to be building on a little bit. Like, why? Because obviously that's going to be a question. Okay, why are they hiding there? Because that's going to come out as part of Magnolia's natural speech being dominated so hard, vampirically speaking. But why? We're going to use the action tables there to try and work out the purpose, or at least the relationship between our sire and the Anarchs, or maybe the intentions. We'll roll the dice and see what conjures up. We have got a 49. Heal. That's a very interesting thing here. Heal and 94 vehicle. So perhaps not a actual vehicle like a car or something. Maybe it's like some sort of driving motivation, building up numbers, driving towards a greater goal. Enlightenment again makes sense with the whole cult thing. Maybe the cult once had a purpose many years ago, focusing on vampires, turning mortals into like some sort of like the whole rejuvenation of the skin thing was like a front. Maybe there was something else relating to that years ago, wanting to reinvigorate that. Some Anarch caught wind or something like that. Seems very elaborate, I know, but this is like elder shit. It's not going to make much sense to us. That being said, we are a character who's in their 50s, so elder shit always gets messy, especially when it was an elder fucking Nagaraja, which does make Sage all the more curious about this, that maybe they should extend an invitation of some description to the Anarchs. Or do they want to keep this in-house because the Anarchs are found out somehow, or maybe it's like a large pack or gang of Anarchs have discovered, or they feel very sussy about what we're doing because they know who's in charge, but they don't know about us, maybe? Could turn that around and like stage and invent an invasion of some description. So we get like I won't roleplay all of that out because there's a lot of information I've just conveyed there, but you sort of get the general idea. There's a massive question. Does Sage attempt to reach out to these Anarchs, or do they try and get this matter nipped in the bud? Because there's always the intention that the Anarchs will just tear their whole empire down, and Sage does actually want to lead the cult in their own directions rather than some weird elder blood death magic sort of thing. So again, I will use Mythic and say that it is... I'm actually going to again say that it is nearly impossible, which sort of argues the point why I'm even rolling at this point, but I'm prepared to be surprised here because we got one of those really interesting answers from this. Nearly impossible that they will reach out to these Anarchs. They might do at a later point, but regarding the matter of their sire and locating them, it is nearly impossible that they will reach out to these Anarchs. Again, a 50 result, 56. With yeah, that is a no. They are not going anywhere near the Anarchs in this instance. Probably because they have this illusion, like Magnolia here, that these like young rapscallion kids, they just turn everything down, they just burn things to the ground and, you know, have some boomer shit in there for good measure. But now there's a matter of where exactly the sire is, and I think with the for Dominate, and we're still making eye contact with them and establishing this communication, where exactly is could we find our sire? Like, obviously they're hiding in the walls and whatever. he has to use some descriptor tables, like to try and like flesh out like their actual. Actually, I'm not too sure if the descriptor tables would be the best one for that. Honestly, there's a location table. Is there? Don't suppose you've got a page number for that. Page 310. Thank you very much. 210. I was going to say, we ran out of pages, my friend. 210. Okay. You see, we'll roll on some things on that twice. Or maybe we just get the one if I'm so inspired. Or maybe we'll even more. Who knows? That is 45. Which grants us horrible. Which makes me think that they've maybe got like a domain of their own. Perhaps they're more on the bestial side of things. Maybe that, whereas we're within reason and keeping everything really clean and pristine and like all the oil healthcare sort of thing. Theirs is just like this messy blood pit. And perhaps, and this is getting really fucking grim with this, when we established in like the sacrifice altar with like the gridded floors that's coming down in these like different pipes, maybe there's within all that intersection in like their factory, there's a bit of it that just goes off into like a different room and they just get all like the fleshy chunky bits that come off, which is a bit fucked, bit elaborate, but I like that. That's one part of it down. So we're going to put that in a shelf over there and like restart it and guess and roll twice and see what we can come up with. It's like a set dressing thing. And can I have some nices in the chat, please? Because we just rolled 69. Which is not nice given the context of this, but 69 to 69. Personal. I mean, yeah, personal, haven, domain. Personal makes me think it's kind of small, so it's not like huge. So rather than the smaller side of things, so that helps. Roll again. That is, was that 3 or 2? 23, which is dark. Makes sense, wouldn't have much light in it. I mean, our, like, ritual room is kind of dark anyway, but this is particularly dark. And I kind of like it that this is sort of leaning a bit more into the direction of them, like, maybe going mad since our embrace, maybe with all this fear or whatever, that they feel they're sort of trapped in this room, that they can't be let out because these Anarchs are going to kill them, they're worried about something else. Linking back to Wanda's idea earlier on, that's, just to get the exact wording, like something to do with somebody that survived, or something to that effect. Someone left to die that survived. So maybe that... Okay, let's combine the Anarchs and that thing idea together. That's probably why the Anarchs know about it. Maybe somebody that's high-ranking within this particular Anarch faction, an ally or contacted this Nagaraja, was like metaphorically or perhaps literally stabbed in the back, was left to die, but then realised that they escaped. And this person, a partner in crime, maybe they knew about all of this and now they like defected or whatever, and they're going to like try and plan some sort of revolution, revolt thing to try and take out this cult, but some time has passed, that hasn't happened yet. But our sire is scared shitless, and they embraced somebody to take on the flak. The sire has disappeared off the face of the planet, and they've created a target by proxy to take on the brunt of everything that's going wrong. There we go. I think that's now connecting all that shit together. They're buried in a grave, they're buried alive-ish sort of stuff. I like that quite a bit. Because they would meet with the whole death cult sort of thing. Maybe they thought they were dead, or had them killed, but maybe... Well, being vampires, maybe they were just buried in torpor. And they were rescued, and they were brought back that way, and now these Anarchs, or faction of Anarchs, whatever, know it that way. I kind of like that, removing the evidence that way and trying to dispose of the problem, which, given they are a Nagaraja, they could just eat them. Might not make a bit of sense, but you're dealing with a Nagaraja, like, people are going to be pointing the finger at you, oh, I haven't done anything like that, blah, blah, blah. Technically that would count as diablerie, and they could do the whole scrying the aura thing, so actually burying them actually makes quite a bit of sense, just remove all sense of suspicion that they're involved with it like that. Yeah, I agree, Crimson, everything is tying together in a really sick sense. But there is the question, of how much does Magnolia know about this? Because clearly they know they're hiding in the walls, they know about the Anarch situation, but do they know? Possibly? If they know as much as they've told us already, I think it was likely that they would know, maybe because of the generational thing, that they're appearing to be older than they actually are, because we assumed that they were embraced in the late 70s, 80s, but maybe that's just a facade just to blend in a bit more. Okay, so there's quite a few questions here that we need to ask to try and ascertain the difficulty, the likelihood of all this happening. The same generation as us, is Magnolia an elder vampire? And we're sort of leaning in the direction, because they worked so close with our sire, or they may well have worked so close with our sire, and the fact they know all this information, I would say that it is very likely that they are of a similar age bracket, that they are an elder vampire, masquerading as a neonate sort of thing. Doing a very good job of it too, I have to say, the way that I've been portraying them up until this point. Props for... so yes, very likely. That is 40 exactly. So that is a yes, they are an elder vampire. Okay, next question. With that in mind, do they know all the shit I've just been waffling about the relationship with the Anarch and all the rest of it, rather than just them hiding in the walls? Are they their partner in crime here? Do they want that help them out of all of this? I'm actually going to say this is nearly certain, rather than certain, because at that point I might just not be rolling. But nearly certain is like 19 to 95 is yes, and 95 to 100 is a no. Yeah, let's keep the narrative rolling. Yeah, if that's what makes sense to me. 50-50 would work too, but I'm just going to go with nearly certain just because of how certain things are here. If we weren't too sure about the age bracket, I would have lowered it a bit more, but let's see what we get. And we could be surprised, actually, and they might find out a different way, or may never find out at all, which is a really horrifying thing to think about. That is 70, but that is still like lower than 95. So yeah, Magnolia was the partner in crime, and they sort of spew all that information out, which I think is the full extent of the 4 successes we got with that Dominate roll. And whereas Sage thought they were going to get more answers and like a resolution to this, they're kind of, I think at this point they'd be quite scared with all of this, because, you know, despite the fact that they are of generation, then they're fairly new to vampire with all of this, and, you know, they've gotten fairly accustomed to eating people. That's the nature of what they do. This is all frightening stuff to them. Now, they've got a courage of 4, self-control of 5, so I won't make them roll anything just at this point. Actually, no, I am actually going to roll courage here, because I think for like an older person as well, who probably wouldn't have a huge amount of horror, yes, or they're doing the whole like Nagaraj and eating people, I'm going to make a courage roll here. What would the difficulty of that would be? Not to fucking lose it right now, like a fear frenzy and like run away. I'm going to make that as a difficulty 7, because I think anything more than that I think is a bit much. So difficulty 7 with courage. You've got 4 dots. I only need the 1 success with this. Well, I would have 1 success, but I got a 1. It was going so well up until this point. Okay, so, but again, that makes a lot of narrative sense here. Like, being frightened and hearing all this information, Sage is like, the beast takes over them in that respect, and they just like, perhaps this is the first time they frenzied as well and just don't know what to do, and they just fucking flee, which breaks the eye contact, and they just run into the night. Maybe as the bestial vampire is like clawing and scraping to get back into the car, the vessel is a bit surprised by all, oh, British understatement there, frightened by this whatever has possessed the older brother. And that maybe they just sort of like turn to the museum, and the art guy is like, what have they seen? What did they discover? And but they're not going to go anywhere near them whilst they're sort of clawing, trying to get away as fast as they can. And I imagine if we just sort of imagine, I'm going to use cards here as a representation, these packs of cards. If we say that this is the car and that's our character, they're sort of like clawing and scraping it and like sort of forcing their way up over it, climbing down, and then just like scampering away a little bit, like hiding behind a tree or something, and just getting their shit together and just calming down. And even though they are a vampire, when they finally do get it together, how many minutes do they sit there for? I'm going to roll a d10 to work that out. 5 minutes, that seems fair. Wind probably picks up a bit more now. They may be dead and very much a vampire, or a monster in their own right. They're sort of hyperventilating, going through the motions, because that's what their body's natural response is, even though they don't need the air to recall back. It's just a shock response. And this is painfully beautiful. I love this as well. And it's just, again, this is all the joy of like solo play and like using these tables, and in this circumstance, collaborating with other people as well, just coming up with something like really fucking beautiful as well. And of course, you can use something like this in a traditional game where you could all make a bunch of characters and just plonk something like Mythic or the Aurtakis Storyteller. Go and check that out on the Storyteller's Vault, and just have that be your games master, and you're all taking turns asking questions and like building a game around that. I really do recommend that. I've done that a few times with some friends before. It'd be interesting to do like a proper like one-shot around that idea as well, like an actual play sort of thing, but that would probably be something for another time. But after some time, coming back to our game, when all the screaming, the hyperventilating, and everything else begins to die down a little bit, our character, Francis, that's the name of our driver, just comes forward a little bit and just goes, "Older brother, you... I'm fine." And he gets up, adjusts his suit the best that he can, because it's British cold weather. He's probably got a soggy bottom. The spirit of Mary Berry is most unpleased at this. There's just some things that are just not worth repeating to such unenlightened souls as yourself. He's completely bullshitting here. And I'm actually going to make a roll for this, because I don't think the vessel may be bought by this. But that being said, manipulation, persuasive, our specialty, does apply here. But I'm going to do this as a difficulty 8. Because, you know, this is all completely fucking hogwash. So, what am I doing? What would this be? Manipulation and subterfuge. But actually, I'm going to ignore the persuasive specialty and focus on the lies specialty of our subterfuge, which is actually quite a high pull for us. This is actually 8 dice. But difficulty 8, and with our rolls in particular, we haven't done particularly well at the moment. So, how many dice have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cool. That is a fat pull. So let's roll and hope we get 8 successes. Well, I mean, the score with 8, that's what I mean. We've got 1. This should be a contested roll, I think, because that's what I would have done in a normal circumstance. The vessel not being particularly weak, I'm going to give them 4 dice to beat that. I think that just seems fair. Not too weak, not too strong. So if they beat that... bullshitting, didn't look at the dice. I think that's going to be like... I'm going to say that's difficulty 6, the standard thing. They got no successes, but on top of that, they got a 1. So they boshed, and they're completely buying it. Like, oh yes, of course, I'm so sorry that I questioned you, older brother, and then just start like tripping over themselves like that. So that worked out in our favour, funny enough. And with that, I think we go back to the next scene. And for the most part, that was in our favour. And I would move that up chaos factor to 7, but with the idea of the frenzy and losing it so badly, I'm not actually going to move it up. I'm just going to keep it at 6, and just remain at that. And actually, with a lie, I would have moved it down by 1, so we'll keep it at 6 for the time being, as it mostly went in our favour, but with the frenzy being like a complete loss of the self with the vampire, right at the end, I'm going to keep it at 6 for the time being, as we return back to our haven, and we sort of get the idea of where to start looking now, I think. Whilst it wasn't said specifically in our conversation here, from what I was talking about with like the tubing in the factory that goes to a certain way. I think that is where we're going to be looking, I think. It's obviously going to be hidden. However, if I was doing this in a traditional game, I wouldn't have made the players roll for this because, I mean, if they fail and they can't find the door, it's game over. Like, they can't progress. Also, they've been told what to look out for, so they could just go in, follow the different pipes and tubes. And I imagine there are, like, other people working, like, doing the late shift or whatever. And we're just going through, not really engaging conversation with anybody. We're sort of having a look around to make sure that there's barely anybody here. I don't think there'll be, like, many people here just because of what we're doing. And we're going to go and open the door. And the next question I'm going to ask, because we're saying that our sire is on the more bestial side of things, they may not have been getting, like, the regular sustenance that they need of both flesh and blood. So it is highly possible through this that one of three things is going to happen. They could be in torpor, just because of the lack of blood. They could be sane, within the realms of things, i.e. we can have some form of a conversation with them. Or they're white. First things first, I think we're going to use Mythic to determine whether they are in torpor. Because if that's the case, then there's no fucking point rolling to see what's going on here. As we open the door. Actually, before I do that, I've just thought, blood, flesh, the rest of it. There is a lot of blood in this room. A lot of flesh. We actually need to make a self-control roll to see if we can compose ourselves and not go into a frenzy that way round. And I think with all this shit here, it's a fairly high difficulty. We're not hungry. The sight of blood, 4 or higher in extreme cases. I'm actually going to make this difficulty 6, which is a standard difficulty, but in the context of the frenzy, this is fairly high because there is just so much of it here and so much blood. Yeah, diff 6 is right. In this instance, at least. So, self-control, 5. We only need the 1 success. We can't use willpower here. And even if we could, I wouldn't allow it. Oh, that's a 9. That's all successes. A 9, 8, 10, 8, and 8. Yeah, we are completely resolute. We are a cultist on a mission here. That is a very nice success indeed. So, now we're going to go to Mythic and ask the question about our... Sire, are they in torpor? Honestly, it's possible. Because remember, most of the blood and things are going through like the main tubings into the stock. And perhaps our sire has locked themselves in here, possibly from the outside. They probably use Dominate of their own to have somebody lock the door behind them. And then just go about their business or whatever. It is likely, I think, that they are in torpor. Because I don't think they would probably get enough to sustain themselves. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to go with likely and see what we get. That is 13. Which means our sire is in torpor. So we open this door, we get punched in the face by all this flesh and muck. And there is our sire in this barely lit room, because we established earlier on that it was a dark environment. Our sire is all this husk of an individual, I guess, you know, being of an older vampire. We didn't remember being embraced, and we're getting some of those visions coming back to us. And because we didn't remember, we didn't really flesh out much of how our embrace happened. Let's use the descriptor tables to come up with something, and I'll happily take suggestions here as well, because I think it'll be a really great opportunity to flesh out what's probably going to be the final moment of this one-shot, because as they're in torpor, this makes the diablerie process really fucking easy. So what is that? That is 25 for dimly. So maybe not much there. That does make sense, as we hadn't really remembered, and we were sort of dominated out of forgetting this. So dimly and 94 is unpleasant. Gee, thanks, Mythic. So, now unpleasant to me isn't a particularly strong word. It's not too violent in the sense that it wasn't beaten down, tortured, you know, it wasn't of that nature. It was like, obviously it's painful because of the Nagaraja bite. It obviously wasn't consensual, but it wasn't violent, so Obviously, there's more that's going on with that. And because it's dimly, we're not actually getting much information back here at the moment. He says, seeing that somebody is typing, what you're going to cook up there. Let's see what we can come up with. If anything at all. Like the Sire was very gentle, but also dominated them from doing anything. That makes sense. Which will also explain why it's dim, so it's unpleasant, it's uncomfortable. The weird mix of emotions, like, this hurts, but this feels so good. Which is a particularly weird thing to talk about with the Nagaraja, which kind of makes the Sire a bit sad, in a tragic sense, honestly, because even though we've established that they set up our character as like a front here, there was still like this level of gothic romanticism and tragedy. We just do eating the Sire entirely and then consider the Diablerie successful. That is a fair point. But then again, you see, everyone was so strong about diablerizing the Sire in the previous thing, but it became so complicated making them the Nagaraja. I do like that though. You know, as they're in torpor, I think we will just do with that. I think that just the real fun of it. Yes, a midnight sack. Sounds like our Sire didn't have the making of a variety athlete. No? Vacity athlete. No. Alright, I think that's what we will do. Like, we have a look at our Sire, barely recognising the individual. Husk of an individual. Not like shrinkled, riveled sort of thing, but you know, they're in torpor, they're clearly not with it. Elder vampire. Mixed emotions for sure. We've got this whole Anarch thing that our character will have to worry about in the future. No one around. And we treated this like a film or something. Looking around again. Shutting the doors behind us. The camera pans in. It fades to black. The credits roll. Munch, munch, munch. Crunch, crunch, crunch. And I think that's it, folks. I think that's a particularly appropriate place to end this festive one-shot, I think. Unless anybody has got anything else to part. It must feel so anticlimactic for Sage. They probably were looking forward for some intense revenge. Yeah, I think so too. Like, they wanted to give them a piece of their mind to try and work out a bit more what was going on. And then they just left them like that. Like, but they'll take it. I guess. Well, they're going to have to, I guess. Because I don't think they're going to have to, you know... They definitely wouldn't, like, donate any blood to them. They're not going to donate anything. And that's just, like, a stupid thing to do anyway. But yeah, I absolutely like that, adding to the sadness of it all. It's like, you bastard. It's just as simple as that, I think. But yeah, I'll have to fix the Sire's message too. Yeah, like the whole Anarch situation, like a potential Anarch invasion on their cult village, and these other people that will probably get caught in the crossfire. Not that Sage would care all that much, of course. Well, care is in like a personal level, but cares like, oh, you might disturb the flock and I won't have a means of ruling these people anymore. Which will be, yeah, unpleasant. So yeah, there we have it. This is the end, I guess, of our V20 Christmas one-shot. We've had some very creative people help make a character and establish some really cool ideas with this one-shot. Creating an idea together like this, collaborating, bouncing ideas off each other that, as I've said already, I would have probably never come up by myself. You know, even though there's been a bit jokey in places, we've actually been able to turn those, like, first silly ideas into something that's rather fitting of the world of darkness and of Vampire the Masquerade as well, and tell this very interesting, tragic story of, like, a typical sire-child relationship shenanigans with a cult and, you know, just some casual cannibalism and, oh, the local riffraff may be setting an invasion soon that I'm completely unprepared to defend for, you know, just end every day within the nameless city. But, you know, it's been a really fun creative exercise, creating this world with these people, with the audience here, and just having lots of fun with it too, and just using our imaginations, this gorgeous book here, and of course V20, to come up with an entire one-shot, a character, and NPCs, and it just goes to show how easy it is to do. And I will forever say this, you don't need fucking ChatGPT bollocks or any fucking AI for it. You just use your imagination, folks. Just roll up some tables with that and just have fun. Like, it's so rewarding. Like, I feel that we've done a really cool job here. And, like, coming up with something really cool. I feel really proud of everybody who turned up for the character creation process, and everyone who's turned up for the actual play, which, yeah, hasn't been that many people, which is absolutely fine. But we managed to cook something really cool together. What is it? The size Diablo Sage sees like a pick or something, realized that the sire was a former ancestor. That's an interesting idea, given the fact this is a whole cult thing. You know what? I'm going to make a roll on that with Mythic. This can be like the final Mythic roll. And the final dice roll of the thing properly to determine that. Because I really like that idea, and just a bit of bias here, which you really shouldn't be doing too much. Obviously, you have an idea about which way things are going to go, but we're going to push things in our favour a bit more. Was our sire a former ancestor? I'm going to say that it's likely, and see what the dice decide. That is 8. So, not only is that a yes, that is an exceptional yes. So maybe there's like a fucking painting on the wall and they recognise the individual like straight away. Like one of the founding fathers of our great cult community. Well, they wouldn't call it a cult, but you know what I mean. Like one of the founding fathers, like they now have all this information because they've read up and they studied them and etc. and so forth. It's like just adding to the affirmations and things, which probably adds to the sadness of the like anticlimacticness as well, of like not being able to have this heart to heart because they see them, they can't have that conversation with like all the things that they accomplished. You see, one fucking question, one dice roll, and we've come up with so many layers and nuances to something that we've already established with this character and this story. This is why I love TTRPGs and running games and shit, because you have these just little moments that create fucking gorgeous art, man. Like, stop using the fucking generative AI and employ the brains. Fucking love that. I agree, it was fun. I wish I jumped in before. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. And I won't lie, I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would too. I knew I was going to have fun because I've done this with people before, mainly my partner. But we should do this again more time. Maybe we can do this in other holiday periods, like maybe when Easter roll around, doing something then. I don't know, like I think we could do something like this in the future and put out more crazy little one-shots like this, both here on YouTube, now that I managed to get the recording sorted out. But what about the audience at YouTube land? What have you thought about this? What did you like? What didn't you like? Would you like to see more one-shots of this collaborative nature? Maybe I can try getting it working with YouTube sometimes, but I think this is a nice little special thing we're doing for our Discord community. So if you want to participate in this, go and check out the Discord link in the description below. It's there in practically every video I've done since I've started, so come and join the All by Night Discord server. We can have lots of fun like this and so much more. And our meme game is just magnifique. And if this by chance your first experience of Vampire the Masquerade, I'm going to leave a whole host of books for you to go and purchase down there as well. Now, if you purchase those books with those specific links, I get some of the money back because I'm an affiliate on Drive RPG, and that sort of coinage is going to help produce cool, awesome shit like this. Because, you know, this shit ain't cheap, and I'd appreciate all the support you can get. And it's also really cool because it means that you get books, I get books, and you get shit like this for free, which is absolutely based pog as shit. But if you've got those things already and or want to get something else, go and find the affiliate code and copy and paste it into the URL of any Drive for RPG purchase before you add to the cart, and that helps to bring some of the money my way as well. It's only a small bit, you know, every little bit helps. But if you can't do that, that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to induct you into our cult and eat you and turn you into some lovely health products. It's totally optional. If you can do that, that's great, but if you can't do that, that's also fine as well. But what you should definitely do regardless is give the video a cheeky little thumbs up, subscribe to the Lord by Night channel, and share this video with any and everyone who loves what I do. And I'll see you on the next upload, wherever that may well be for you. And until next time, farewell.